Alright, so for today's video, we are going to rate Drake. We're going to see how attractive Drake really is. Now, before I start, I'm going to post, little pictures so y'all can see. And this is, a non-biased survey, I guess you can say, because there's a lot of biased surveys. Some people say, I like Drake because I listened to his music ever since I was, however old they were. But this one is just straightforward. Do girls think Drake is hot, right? 44% said yes, 56% said no, right? So majority of them said no. So this is gonna tie into what I'm gonna do next for my next slide. So I just want guys to see that so y'all can have a good idea. All right, so his overall rating is a 4.5. How rare is that? That is 1 in 2.16 people. The percentage of people is the bottom 46%. His side facial score is 37%. His front facial score is 30%. His total facial harmony score is 34%. His facial dimorphism is a 4. Body fat factors is a 4. Miscellaneous features is a 9. His overall facial assessment breakdown. So let's start off with the best features. He has good hairline, good beard, thick eyebrows, a great shape overall, a great head shape overall, good teeth alignment, perfect bite, a full lower lip / prominent cupid's bow for the upper lip. Now the worst features is droopy eyes, chubby cheeks, wide nose, short chin to height. So his chin is very short in length, stubby nose, and he does have wider set eyes, so his eyes are farther apart. Now these are the rarity scores of other celebrities, so yeah, I did update it a bit, so make sure to check that out. Now his facial dimorphism, so we're looking at the male side because he is a male, and I gave him a check on neck width, dominant lower third, brow ridge inclination, and nasal frontal angle. His body fat factors, let's start off with the front. So I gave him half for jaw visibility and cheek leanness, and then I also gave him half for the jaw visibility from the side view. But like I said before, since his cheeks are really chubby, he doesn't really get much for that as well. And this is also prime Drake, not the Drake now. This is prime Drake when he was much younger. So I know Drake now is got a little bit more weight on him, but I'm talking about prime Drake. All right, miscellaneous features. So I gave him a check on forehead lines, so he does have some forehead lines. I know now he has nasal labial folds and all these other stuff as well. But like I said, this is a younger Drake. I'm doing a Drake of 24, 25 years of age. And yeah, so that's the Drake that I'm looking at specifically. All right, so his eye separation ratio is 49.2%. So what this indicates to me is that his eyes are more farther apart. And this is all relative to the width of his head, going from zygomatic bone to the other zygomatic bone. All right, so his facial thirds is a tier 4, and just by looking at it, his lower third is actually too long. So having a lower third that's too long can unbalance your face, and his upper third is slightly a bit short. So if his upper third was a little bit longer, maybe that could have balanced his facial third a little bit better. But yeah, his lower third is a bit too long. His canthal tilt is a tier 5 at negative 2.5 degrees. And I can just imagine what it is now, if not if he did surgery or anything like that. But yeah, you do not want to have a canthal tilt that is this negative. This is really, really low. So yeah, so he does have droopy eyes. His facial width to height ratio, so FWHR. So this determines how separated or far apart are your facial features, and this is relative to the width of his face. And you don't want your face to look too elongated or anything like that. And his is not at 1.97, so his face is somewhat compact. His jaw frontal angle is at 80 degrees. 80 degrees will give him a tier 3. So preferably you do want to have a wider set jaw, or I mean, this is not too far off from the ideal range at, I believe is at 84. But preferably you want something that's a little bit more wider. to give it, that more aggressive look that you're looking for. His cheekbone height settiness, so how high set is his cheekbones, and his is at 79%. So this is sort of around the mid to high set cheekbones, believe it or not. So Drake does have that one good feature that kind of stands out a little bit. So he does get a good amount of points for this. His total facial height to width ratio is 1.36. So like I said again, he has a good head shape overall. And his head overall is not too long or too short or anything like that. His bigonial width is 88%. So this determines how wide the jaw is. And 88% means that his jaw is not too narrow or too wide. And it has good proportions with the width of his overall head shape. So yeah. His chin to filtering ratio is a tier 3 at 1.9. So like I said again, his chin is really short in length. So that's why his filtrum cannot harmonize well with his chin. Because if you have a chin that is that short, is not going to. And another thing too is his lower third is so long to where that he actually has room to spare. So if his filtrum, it can go either way. Like if his filtrum was a bit shorter, it probably might harmonize better. But his chin is short, so either one has to be shorter. It doesn't really matter. His neck width is a tier 1 at 99%. So 99% tells me that he does have a really, really wide neck, and you do want to have this. You want to have a very wide base. It gives you that dominant masculine look that you're looking for, and it makes your head appear less, I guess, big in a way. So if you have a small little neck, your head just appears big. But if your neck is thick and wide, your head shape appears to be normal and not so big. So yeah, it can also kind of give it that weird illusion. His mouth to nose width ratio is a tier 3 at 1.33. Like I said again, his nose, or his alar base of the nose, where the nostrils are at, is flared out. So his nose is pretty much on the wider set. So his nose is what's making this at 1.33. So if his nose or his nostrils wasn't as flared out as what you can see right now, he probably would have been within the ideal range for this measurement. His mid-face ratio is a tier 4 at 1.08. So this is the mid-face ratio, and I'm going to just kind of briefly explain what this is. So it goes from the eye line down to the upper lip, and that is going to be divided by the actual distance between the pupils. So preferably you want it to be evened out. So literally it has to be the same length. So what I'm looking for is literally a square. So all length are the same from all sides, right? And for him, his is actually on the more compact side. So his face isn't too spaced out properly. You want it to kind of like just give it a little bit more stretched out appearance. But like I said again, like his nose is a bit stubby, so I feel like that's one of the reasons why this measurement in particular is kind of off a little bit. But like I said again, with the facial harmony, everything kind of just aligns together. So if you're missing out on one thing, that might affect other measurements as well. His eyebrow settiness is a tier 3 at 1. So what this indicates to me, now it might be a little bit tricky to measure this, but he is kind of squinting a little bit, or it kind of seems like it. But Drake naturally has narrow eyes, so maybe not. But his eyes do appear, or his eyebrows do appear low set, but in reality, believe it or not, they're not actually low set like you might think they are. A tier 3 is not bad, it's still within the normal range, but preferably you want your eyes to be more lower set. And this is all relative to the height of your actual eye aspect ratio, which we will get to next soon. His eye spacing one eye test is a tier 3 as well. So like I said again, you want to have one width eyes apart in between each eye, but his is a little bit more than that. Like I said before, his eyes are a little bit more wider set, and this is one of the reasons why it's contributing to that effect, is because in between it's supposed to be more closer together, but his is a little bit more wider. His eye aspect ratio is a 4, so this means that he has very, 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 very narrow set eyes. Now, yes, you want to have narrow set eyes for a male, but to what degree? Now, this is at the higher end of it. Now, this is still kind of normal for a male face, but you don't want this to be too narrow because it can kind of throw off the face a little bit. So, yeah. His lower lip to upper lip ratio is a tier 3 at 1.75. Now, like I said again, he does have a full lower lip, and also with the Cupid's bow and with the philtrum ridge. So this is like the engrooved part. Let me see if I can grab my mouse. So the engrooved part right here. So it goes from the philtrum ridge all the way down to the Cupid's bow, which is very prominent. And his is wide, and that is something that you would typically see in an African American face, is a wider Cupid's bow. So yeah, so I mean, it's better to have a Cupid's bow than not to have anything at all. That's how I kind of look at it. His deviation from his ipsilateral aliar angle to his jaw frontal angle is 21 degrees. This is completely outside of the ideal range, and this is going to be a complete flaw right here. Preferably, you want your mid-face angle and your jaw frontal angle to be the same, no more than 15, honestly. Preferably, you want it to be around 5, but his is way outside of that range, so he's going to get the full hit for this one, and he's actually going to lose points for having a 21 degree difference between these two measurements. His eyebrow tilt is a tier 2, so he doesn't really have any tilt to the eyebrows necessarily. Men do not need any tilt with their eyebrows, but preferably a slight tilt can just do you very well, or can just be just fine. But having no tilt at all is perfectly normal as well. So yeah, so he gets a tier 2. So a bitemporal width. So his bitemporal width is a tier 1 at 91%. Now, like I said again, overall, he has good hairline, a good head shape, and yeah, so that's probably his best feature, is just his head shape overall. His head shape overall is ideal, so I don't see why he will kind of miss out on any of these measurements with the bigonial width, with the bitemporal width, with the head shape width. Just his head shape overall is perfect, so he's not going to really miss out on any of those type of measurements. So yeah. His lower third proportions is 36%. So this is at the he's still within the ideal range, but this is at the outskirts of it at 36. So if you would have had 37, that would have got him at a tier 2, which he was kind of close to that, but he still made it in the 36. So his lower third proportions is evenly divided perfectly. So yeah, his lower third is nice. All right, so his ipsilateral aliar angle, which is the last angle or the last measurement for the front view side, or front view profile, I should say, and his is at 101 degrees. So this indicates to me that he has a wider set mid-face angle, and this can be contributed to many different reasons. It can be contributed to him having very, very wider set eyes, and also him having a short nose in length. So if you have a short nose and length and wider set eyes, it will contribute to a very wide angle. Unlike, some other celebrities, like, let me give an example. Kim Kardashian has a very narrow set ipsilateral aliar angle because her nose is more lengthy and her eyes are a little bit more on the closer set side. So, it can range by different things as well. But yeah, so that's another reason why side view side view angles can contribute to your front view angles as well. So they do have a balance between each other. His gonial angle is 131 degrees. 131 degrees is completely off at a tier 4. So this is going to be a slight flaw right here. You want to have a sharper jaw in theory. His is not that sharp. And this is going to take out a bit of points, and this is going to be a little bit of a big hit. His nasal frontal angle is a tier 1 at 122 degrees. 122 degrees indicates to me that he does have a prominent brow region. And so that's a good feature to have, is a prominent brow area. It makes the face look a little bit more dominant. His mandibular plane angle is a tier 2. So his mandible is, and this is mandible inclination, so you want your mandible not to be too flat to the ground and not too steep. His is not too steep, but it's a little bit more on the steeper end, but this is normal in practice, so this is going to be a tier 2. So yeah, his ramus to mandible ratio is a tier 2 as well, at 0.57. So this ain't too bad, honestly speaking, but preferably you want your ramus to be just a little bit longer. He's extremely close to the ideal range, but you want that ramus to be just a tad bit more longer. And it also contributes to having more jaw body as well. So if you have a longer ramus, you'll have more jaw body. His facial convexity from the glabella is a tier 3 as well, and his is at 164 degrees. Now 164 degrees means that his facial convexity is more on the rounder side. So this will contribute to other measurements as well, so keep this in mind. So having a facial convexity that is too rounded can affect other measurements in the side view profile. His submental cervical angle is 142 degrees. 142 degrees is completely off, and he gets a full hit for this. So he actually loses a couple of points. So having a submental cervical angle that is this high tells me a lot of things. It tells me that he does have a low hyoid bone, right? This also tells me that he is probably at a little bit older, maybe, but in this picture he's a little bit younger. And it also tells me that he does have submental fat underneath the chin area and underneath the jaw area, and he doesn't have, just tight skin underneath that area that can give it the effect of having a pretty much the jaw is not going to be too exposed, and he is a little bit higher in body fat just naturally, like he stores a lot of fat around his face naturally. So submental cervical angle can tell me just a slew of things, honestly, to be honest with y'all. So yeah, his nasofacial angle is a tier 2 at 37 degrees. This is literally like just 1 degree off. This is not bad at all. It's pretty much the relationship between the nose and the chin. And yeah, so the relationship between these two are not that bad. It's really, really close. And I already know why the relationship is kind of off. Is because he has a little bit of jaw recession, but this is not bad at all. His nasolabial angle is a tier 1 at 101 degrees. So this determines how upturned the nose is. His nose is very, very upturned, which is a good thing, honestly. So you do want to have a nose that is upturned. It makes your face look youthful overall. His bitemporal width, now it was kind of hard to get the perfect picture for this where his eyes were actually open and it was just a perfect side view profile of him. But I've just used this for just an example. And it's kind of easy to tell that he does have very deep set eyes. And this is also relative to the orbital bone underneath the actual eye. And yeah, so his orbital bones actually pass the eye. So what that means is that he does have deep set eyes, and that can kind of gives a person the hunter eye appearance, as they say. So yeah, so you want your orbital bones to be past the eye. But when the eye is actually past your orbital bone, then you have what they consider bug eyes, which he does not have that at all. His total facial convexity is a tier 1 at 140 degrees. He gets a tier 1 for this. And yeah, so his facial convexity is perfect. So yeah. And this also contributes because of his rounded facial convexity overall too. And the nose takes into account as well with the total facial convexity. So yeah, his mental labial angle is a tier 2 at 132 degrees. Now he does have a chin, kind of somewhat of a chin, but looking at this, I can tell that his lower lip is doing majority of the work with this angle. And yes, if you do not have a chin, but you do have a prominent lower lip, your lower lip can actually kind of do majority of the work to kind of counterbalance that a little bit. But there are other measurements that will kind of expose that a little bit as well. So yeah, so I can tell just by looking at this, he doesn't really have that much of a forwardly grown chin, but his lower lip is doing majority of the work to offset that. So yeah, so this is not too bad though. This will be at tier 2, so this is kind of going to be close to the ideal range, but not bad at all. His facial convexity from the nasion is 160 degrees. 160 degrees, like I said again, is still on the more rounder side, but this is still a tier 2, so he still gets points for this. His nasal projection is a tier 2 again at 0.52, so he's not really getting a lot of tier 1s. That's the problem. So usually when I'm doing these facial measurements, is usually a lot of tier 1s with these celebrities, but for him, he's getting a lot of tier 2s. It's like it's almost there, but it's not there. It's almost there, but it's not there. So just because you're rating a celebrity doesn't mean they're gonna have the perfect face. So yeah, so this is just a perfect example of it. And his is at 0.52. So what this indicates to me is that his nose isn't really as projected as it should really be. And this is also due to him having he actually has a nasal bridge that is very high set, believe it or not. And you can kind of tell just by looking at it. And you can also tell by the distance between the actual eye and where the nasal bridge starts. So you can tell where the nasal bridge starts in the eye itself. And you can also tell where the nasal bridge is at and where the brow ridge is at. So there's no real big distance between the brow ridge and the nasal bridge set. And there's also a huge distance between the eyes right here and the actual nasal bridge right here. So that's the ways I can kind of tell where the nasal bridge will start and will be set. So he does have a high nasal bridge. So if you have a high nasal bridge, you better have a long nasal width to offset that and to have proper facial proportions for your nasal projection. So his is going to be at a tier 2, so that's not too bad. His nasal width to height projection. Now, he does have a very short and stubby nose, and his is at 1.04, so that's going to be completely off. So he doesn't get anything for that. Now, the lip measurements. So he does have a lot of tier 3s. Like I said again, his lower lip is extremely full and is very projected forward. So I will take most of the blame for that lower lip that he has. If the lower lip was a little bit, less forwardly projected, I think he would have passed some of these lip measurements a little bit more easier. But let's start off with the first one. His Ricketts E line is a tier 3. So preferably you want your lower lip to be more closer to that line than your upper lip. But his lower lip is actually past that line, believe it or not. So if his lower lip was actually behind that line, he would have had a tier 1 for that. The H line is from the tip of the upper lip down to the chin, and his lower lip passes that line, so he gets no points for that. The Steiner line is from the tip of the nostril down to the chin, and the upper lip and the bottom lip is actually supposed to be in line with the line, but his upper lip and bottom lip are past that line, so he gets no points for that. And the bursal line is when the upper lip and lower lip are past the line, but the upper lip is more ahead of the lower lip. Now in this one, his upper lip and lower lip are kind of like at the same length, so that's why he gets a tier 2 for this. His nasal mental angle is a tier 1 at 125 degrees. Now 125 degrees means that this is perfect, so he does have a good relationship between his nose and his chin, and this is also relative to his overall facial convexity as well. And I feel like one thing that kind of counterbalances this is his nasal bridge being a more higher set. So if his nasal bridge was a little bit more lower set, this would have been off a little bit. But since his nasal bridge is a little bit more higher set, it kind of widens that angle a bit to where it can get to the 125 degrees, which is the lowest part of the ideal range. So this will be contributed to his jaw being a little bit recessed, but the nasal bridge just helped counterbalance that a little bit. So I'm gonna show you guys later on though. His gonian to mouth relationship. So you want your gonian bone. So this is pretty much where the two vectors meet. The mandible, the ramus, those two lines meet is where the gonian bone is at. And you want that gonian bone to be below your mouth line. This pretty much indicates whether you have a perfect jaw size for your face, and it also indicates whether your jaw is either lower set or higher set. So if you have a lower set jaw, it's more attractive than having a higher set jaw. And having a lower set jaw just means that your jaw is more developed just overall. And yeah, so this is the best way to identify that. And also another thing too is people with a longer philtrum usually will have lips that are a little bit more lower set in their face. And if you have a longer philtrum, for example, I can't really think of anybody right now. I could probably say a little bit, maybe like El Chapo's wife. Her philtrum is a little bit more longer, so her lips are actually a little bit more lower set. And that what that means is that her ramus has to be that much more longer just to be perfect for her face. So, but anyway, philtrums do have can be a part of this as well, or attributed to this as well. His recession relative to the Frankfurt plane angle, so he is slightly recessed. This is not a big problem or anything like that. If he had a little bit more of a chin, maybe that would have offset this a little bit. But yeah, so if he had a chin, it would have been perfectly fine. So yeah, he does have slight jaw recession. His brow ridge inclination. So how inclined is his brow ridge? So his brow ridge is actually perfect at 18 degrees. And this is not too forwardly back or Neanderthalic or anything like that, because I know he's mixed. Yeah, so you don't want to have a forehead that is too forwardly grown forward or too inclined backwards. If your forehead is too forwardly grown forward or anything like that, it's very unattractive, and it can make you look childlike, or I don't know, baby-like. Just is not fully developed, I guess you could say. His nasal tip angle is 131 degrees. 131 degrees is a tier 3. And he does have a very rounded nasal tip, believe it or not. And this is not too rounded, but preferably wanted the nasal tip to be a little bit more sharper than this. So yeah, it just makes it look more angular. His lower lip to submental plane angle is 110 degrees. Now I feel like I kind of messed up on this measurement. It's kind of hard to do it because the beard was a little bit in the way, but 110 degrees is perfectly fine. This is literally at the highest it can go for the ideal range. Anything more than this will kind of be off. And I feel like what's kind of stretching this angle a little bit is because of his lower lip being forwardly projected. And yeah, so if his upper lip wasn't this projected forwardly, then it would have been even better. His inferior third of the face / lower third of his facial proportions. This is just a different way of measuring your facial proportions, but this measurement right here is more rigorous than the other measurement that I did before for his lower third proportions, which he did pass. And his is at 0.55 when it's supposed to be at 0.53. And this is still not bad at all. It just is more rigorous, and it's probably the better way of indicating whether your facial proportions is perfect for your lower third. And this just indicates to me that it's just slightly off, just by a little bit. But either way it goes, it's not bad at all, in my opinion. His S2 line, so this is one of the ways that I can tell if you have a overbite or underbite. His is at a perfect malocclusion, so he does have a perfect bite. So his upper teeth, or his upper portion of his teeth, do not pass the lower portion of his teeth, and his lower portion of his teeth do not undercut the upper portion of his teeth or anything like that. So he does have a perfect malocclusion. And most people don't even have a perfect bite, believe it or not. Most people actually have either a slight overbite or a complete overbite. So yeah. And the last measurement is a Z angle, which is at 65 degrees. And like I said again, the lower lip, like look at the difference between the lower lip and the upper lip. Preferably with this measurement, the upper lip and the lower lip is actually supposed to be touching that line. That line is called the profile line. Now, his lower lip is touching that line, but his upper lip is nowhere close to that line. So his lower lip is so full that it kind of off balance it a little bit looking at the side. And yeah, it's good from the front view because you do want to have a fuller lower lip than upper lip in general. But when it comes to the distance and protrusion of it, it needs to be around the same. All right. So his Z angle is 65 degrees, when in reality it's supposed to be near 70 degrees or anything like that. 70 to 80 degrees at least. He would have, been within the normal or preferred range for having a proper lip proportion for his face. So yeah, so his lower lip is just a little bit more projected forwardly. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. Make sure to like and subscribe, and if you want me to rate your face, I can do that for you. Just hit me up on Instagram, and between 1 to 2 days, I would just send you your rating, and I would do it for free. So yeah, and I'm out.